After a badass opening incorporating nearly every anime cliché ever, there's no way this game can live up to the awesomeness that opening presented. Can it?
Go! Danzai, fire!
Actually, it does. Story-wise, Evil Zone fits nicely into that glorious little realm of so bad it's good anime with a terrible English dub intact. The powerful Ihidoka, a multi-dimensional sorceress, once inhabited and terrorized multiple dimensions at once before the inhabitants of the world called Ai Paseru, known as Happy Island, confined her to an interdimensional cage called the Evil Zone. But her captivity could only be temporary, and now one warrior from each dimension must represent their domain in a tournament to determine who is the strongest and face Ihidoka alone. Because teaming up and ensuring your victory would make for a short, boring game, I guess. Evil Zone features a very traditional set of features: training mode, survival, versus, and story/arcade. But the story mode is a little more interesting than in most fighting games, and continues the brilliant absurdity of the opening storyline.
Special Inspector Danzibar was summoned to the strange world of Ai Paseru to rescue his partner Yuri.
Each character, various anime cliches from different dimensions, has their own brief, ridiculous storyline presented as a classic, cheesy 90s anime TV series, complete with really long episode recaps and coming next time and noticeably awkward dubbing and stumbling through bad translations and ridiculously lengthy episode titles unique to each character. It's actually pretty awesome.
Danzibar is challenged by Errol, clad in armor Nephilim. Placing their faith in each sword, they fight fiercely. Why does he tenaciously pursue Ihidoka? Can Danzibar face Errol's fiery challenge and keep a promise he made to Al? Next week's feature is Danzibar, the Ultimate Hero, Episode 4, Assaulting Thrust, the love of a mercenary girl, entry of armored Errol Prose, and Danzai Burst.
Some of the storylines are actually rather entertaining and probably could have worked as short, mini comedic OVAs.
How do you do? I'm Kaya of Tempo Inn. Starting next week at this time in the new Tempo Inn episodes, I'll be solving your problems such as troubles at work, physical ailments, and love troubles.
While the story mode is fascinating and versus is fun for a while, once you've beaten the game with every character and played versus your friends for a few hours, there sadly isn't much to hold your interest further. Depending on how much you enjoy the multiplayer, Evil Zone is a game that is an absolute blast for maybe 10 to 20 hours, but then you'll probably end up shelving it for a while. The good news is that after leaving it alone for several years and picking it up to do this review, I ended up playing it for several hours after I'd already replayed through half the game to get footage for this review. So it's still fun after all this time. Evil Zone is like a really good cake. Once you start, you can't imagine anything better, but you eventually get sick of it and feel like you never want cake again. But then a few months pass by, you see another cake and you think, holy crap, cake! And you love it all over. Evil Zone has a very unique fighting system. It only uses the directional pad and 2 buttons, one for block and one for attack. That's right, a 3D fighter with free movement only using one attack button. And it's freaking brilliant. Instead of having multiple attack buttons and issuing long strings of combinations of those buttons to pull off attacks, all attacks in Evil Zone are initiated by the triangle button, and what attack as a result is dependent upon your distance compared to your enemy and what directional button you are pressing. For instance, pressing down and triangle is a grab move. Pressing down and triangle while close to your enemy is one move, several paces back is another, and pressing the same 2 buttons really far away is yet another. Each directional button works in the same manner in conjunction with triangle. It's brilliantly simple, original, and still provides a wealth of varied special attacks and combos. You can also charge up your meter and build up to 3 crystals to unleash your character's ultimate attack. Blocking your enemy's small projectiles, like in the DBZ Budokai games, is also pretty fun. This system keeps you constantly moving and paying attention to your distance compared to your enemy and the angle of your attack, jumping, sprinting, and sidestepping all over the place. While it obviously doesn't look like a modern fighter, it actually plays almost as smoothly as many modern fighting games. The only downside to this gameplay mechanic is the tendency for fights, particularly between veteran players, to turn into a predictable fury of the same special attacks and projectile moves over and over. Even so, the gameplay is spectacularly fun and a joy to watch. The animated sequences, handled by the same studio that worked on anime such as Tenchi Muyo and Bubblegum Crisis, are fantastic, colorful, terrifically directed, and composed in every shot, and there's an impressive variety to each character's different story mode sections. They actually feel like believable animes. Character models are smooth and detailed with fluid movements and good lighting and a fury of particle effects. There are even some little touches, such as Errol losing her hair tie as she's damaged and her hair starting to flow more freely, or Danzivar showing minor damage to his armor. Overall, the special attacks and the animated sequences are definitely the star of the show in the visual department, but sadly the stages themselves are rather bland. They each represent the world of one of the characters and are designed well enough to know which character belongs to each stage, but other than that, they really aren't anywhere near as impressive as the combatants themselves. Voice acting is absolutely terrible, but in a fun, cheesy way that actually seems to fit into the whole poorly translated early 90s anime feel that the whole game is going for.
I found you! You must be Ihadulka.
You two are fighting for the sake of protecting the world?
Don't guess wrong. I'm fighting for the sake of Al. To protect the world? Let's see. I guess that's just an added benefit.
Anyway, both lead to the same result. Come on, spiritual combatant.
Think of watching an episode of GameSack. Sure, it's cheesy and ridiculous, but that's exactly why you love those two guys. While saying that, someday I do want to play the original Japanese release, which has a few vocal songs that were taken out of the North American version, as well as an impressive voice cast whose credits include things like Xenogears and Neon Genesis Evangelion. The music, on the other hand, is amongst the best you'll hear on a PS1 fighter, easily on par with its more well-known counterparts. Elegant simplicity, awesome anime appeal, and a badass soundtrack, Evil Zone is one hell of a hidden gem on the PS1 that will absolutely never get a remake or a sequel. Evil Zone is good because it's so self-aware. It knows it's absurd and runs with it. Its story and characters are awful, the voice work is terrible, and the unique gameplay struggles to keep from falling into that category of good idea, bad execution, but the point is that it never slips too far in that direction, and it embraces its bad points as if they were brilliant and kind of turns them into good points. Sure, it's imperfect, sure there are far better fighting games out there, but only the very best of the best are even close to this much fun. Evil Zone is 90s anime goodness and has a timeless nostalgic comfort for people who grew up in that time period.